تسمعني دكتور؟
اي اسمعك دكتورة. ان شاء الله نبدأ بعد دقيقتين، اقدمك وتبدأ ان شاء الله.
حضور يسمعون حاليا or they muted؟
يسمعون.
اوكي. تسمعني دكتور؟
اسمعك دكتور. اي اسمعك دكتورة. ان شاء الله نبدأ بعد دقيقتين، اقدمك وتبدأ ان شاء الله.
حضور يسمعون حاليا or they muted؟
يسمعون.
اوكي. دكتور ليش يعيد المحادثة؟ انت recorded؟
اسمعك دكتور. اي اسمعك دكتورة.
بس قاعد يعيد الصوت، قاعد يتردد عليه.
الحين ان شاء الله ما راح يتردد.
اوكي.
It's 17 hours.
Hello everyone, thank you everybody to join ITAR online webinar, and thank you Dr. Zahra for accepting my invitation. This webinar will be recorded. This is me, Dr. Ahmed Al-Gattan, the founder of ITAR Group, and our guest today is Dr. Zahra. Dr. Zahra has a PhD in corporate governance from Trinity College, Dublin. She's working right now in Saudi Arabia at Dar al-Ulum University in Riyadh. Her research interests in corporate governance in GCC countries. Dr. Zahra, you have 45 minutes for your presentation, and after that we'll open the floor for any questions. Guys, if you have any question, you can ask in Q&A. Also, you can raise your hand and I will go one by one for asking a question for Dr. Zahra. Thank you again, Dr. Zahra, for accepting my invitation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this session on the topic and how COVID-19 affect corporate governance in GCC country. Let me just share my screen with you. Just give me a second. Okay. Can you see my screen? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Ahmed, again, and for the attendees. And my topic today is going to be how the COVID-19 affect corporate governance in GCC country, or in other words, how proper the corporate governance mitigating the risk during the coronavirus. And as you know, this subject of the coronavirus, it's the most important or the most popular topic to date right now. So I just would like to welcome you today for having me on this important topic. Let's dive in, and I just have this agenda. I'm a big fan of the bullet point and picture, so you wouldn't see a lot of wordy PowerPoint slide. You just have a bullet point, and then I'm going to elaborate accordingly to it. And if you have any question, as Dr. Ahmed said, you just write them in a Q&A. By the end of the time, I will try my best to answer them all. Okay, and don't, I just excuse you through the time, as I'm gonna speak 45 minutes, I'm gonna sip the water duringly to hydrate myself. Okay, let's start with our introductions about the COVID-19. As you know, the pandemic crisis and an unprecedented event, everything is changing, no matter who you are and what kind of a business you have. We have to have a better understanding how business leading during this global crisis and how the business managing this effect of COVID-19 pandemic. The challenge is what the business is facing right now and what is the opportunity can be found as well. So we can explain to ourselves that the COVID-19 is what? Is a systematic risk, right? We have to agree that is a systematic risk, and we have to think how the board can deal with this systematic risk to describe the event and affect either a specific industry or as a broader economy in general. Clearly that the COVID-19 is met the criteria of systematic risk. And even though we are early stage to see the full systematic impact of COVID-19, because as you know, China right now announced there is more dangerous diseases coming on after the COVID-19. So this is why I said it's so early to fully see the impact of COVID-19. In the early stage of the health issue like COVID-19 of the crisis. Okay, so we already agree it's fully a crisis that affects the financial and economic. And we have to start, and just I have to mention that I'm going to focus on the listed company. Why I'm focusing for the listed company? Because they have many minority shareholders, and they have a proper board of director and following the rule of corporate governance introduced by authority regulations. Okay, so this is just to focus that I'm not touching the small business. Some of the factor may be applicable to the medium or small businesses, but what my focus is going to be a listed company. And as you know that during the COVID-19 that we already live in, many countries is enforced lockdown and travel restriction following the surge of cases locally. And we still experience the locking down in a couple of GCC countries because, again, COVID-19, we prioritize the health more than the financial priorities. So basically, we have to absorb how far ongoing coronavirus pandemic is testing the foundation of the modern society and the corporate would abroad around the world, or did the board rethink their usual working practice and political, including the corporate governance, a risk management mechanism? What is the board has to be touched right now regarding the corporate governance? I may say that health and safety of employee first. Keep in mind this one. I'm gonna focus in 5 of them. A broken supply chain. Third, liquidity concern, financial constraint, and remote working. Okay, so what organization do now think about the impact of COVID-19 in the time of a crisis? And what is the rationale of the long-term objective of the board of director and executive? As you know, in corporate governance, the most important component is the board of director and executive, because they have a fiduciary duty for a shareholder. Did they focus in the corporate governance, or they throw it out of the window? Because, you know, because a pandemic, they are stressful. Is they focusing on it, or they throw it out of the window right now? As you know, this is not the first financial crisis we have, because we already experienced it in 2007 and 2008 and reveal the severe shortcoming in corporate governance practice and the fail of a standard of corporate governance in terms of the check and balance of the company needed in order to blend the sound of a practice corporate governance. So what happened right now, do you think? What influence the corporate governance in a company right now? First of all, if influence employee, executive, business. It's influence employee in what sense? Reducing the hour, reducing their pay, freezing their hiring, lay out a lot of employee. And this is difficult decision for a company, because no one size fits all. And this is depend on the margin of the company and also profitability on the company. And also in terms for executive, what is affected, they have to reduce their compensation and also reduce their payment. In terms of the business, some of the business has to close down temporarily, some of them has to close permanently, and also some of them have to delay payment, asking for loan, renegotiation the supply contract, cutting office expenses, deferring leasing payment, reducing additional equity, and taking additional debt, reducing inventory, and postponing research and development investment. And also some of them, so all of them is affect what? Cost, investment, and equity. Okay, even though there is a negative side, and we are pessimistic about the impact of corporate governance, but we cannot ignore some of the business, such as online businesses, as surged during this time of coronavirus. Some of them take opportunity. Which kind of this business? Online businesses, right? Their businesses supporting the economy, supporting the people rapidly. They also rapidly growing. They take the investment tool in terms of the innovation. Okay, so trying to generate revenue through new product and service, and this is, we cannot ignore some of the opportunity it's open for some of the business during the COVID-19 crisis. Okay, so giving a brief about the COVID-19 right now around the world, briefly, let's see what is the role of the board in general, and what is the role of the board of director through the pandemic. Should the board of listed company be considering what is the government doing to support them? As you know, there is the board of director has a fiduciary duty for the shareholder and for the economy as a whole. And even though beside that, they have to keep up with the role of the government and the support of the government during this crisis. Just give me a second. So in the time of a critical situation like the COVID-19, the board in GCC country around the world, they are surrounded by uncertainty and challenging time. They have to have they have to focus on a few priority to keep the business going. What they most likely, what I have observed so far reading about the corporate governance and GCC and updating my data for my next research is very focusing about the health and safety. Keep in mind these 5 points: health and safety, business continuity, cash flow and liquidity, and the 4th point is the communication and disclosure. The 5th point is strategy and recover to achieve sooner revenue. Okay, so these 5 points, most of the company in GCC try to focus on. Listed company again, health and safety, the 1st point. 2nd point is the business continuity. 3rd point is the cash flow and liquidity. 4th point is the communication and disclosure. 5th point is, of course, the strategy and recovery to achieve sooner revenue. Let's elaborate in each of them. تفضل.
Dr. Zahra, sorry for interrupt. Just a quick question. Did you move the slide or is it still in the introduction?
Oh, no, because the introduction, it has about myself, COVID-19 and GCC country, because the second is a recommendation, the finals, and the questions and that one. Sorry, it's just I'm not that big fan about having wordy slides.
No, it's go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. You can ask me anytime during the presentation, okay? Okay, so since we already focused what the company during the COVID-19 crisis they focus, let's elaborate in each one of them. So we said that healthy and safety. And as we remember, the COVID-19 is foremost the health crisis. So the board should keep in mind, they should recognize they have a duty to maintain the health and safety for each member of the company and adhere the remote workly. And as you can observe in all GCC country, most of the company adhere to the remote working policy for staff and ensuring the staff receive a technical support and psychological support. And I say just a second, sorry, just give me a second. Dr. Ahmed, just give me a second, okay?
Sure.
Sorry for interruption. Dr. Ahmed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so again, we say that most of the board of director focus in the health and safety of their. Go ahead.
We can't see your slides. Your slides, please.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I hope they are in the same page right now. Okay. So the board of directors should keep in mind they recognize the duty to maintain the health and safety of each member of the company, maintaining the technology to work remotely during the pandemic as well, and give them the infrastructure or ensure they have at least built in the infrastructure for the technology itself. The second one is the business continuity plan. Most of the authority regularity in GCC country enforce the listed company to have business continuity plan in place, and they have to review it with the time. Is the company able to continue with the business either with these crisis or not? And as I emphasized before, like in Saudi Arabia case, there is a many of the listed company in Saudi Arabia, they remove their CEO during the crisis. Some of them not approving the audit committee because they are not qualified. So the shareholder speak up, become more active during that. They feel They feel the business may not continue as a business if we have the same CEO, if we have this audit committee. Okay, so it's really important to have a sufficient and adequate business continuity plan. I'm hoping that you already have it, the continuity plan. So when the third point is the cash flow and liquidity. As you know, the cash is the king for any business, and the company has to understand their cash and working capital. They have to manage and review their cash forecasting, I meant, in a process, understand the potential of distribution of their operation, running a scenario analysis. We're going to put a much emphasis in scenario analysis for their business analysis of their cash and understand it deeply. They have to have a strategy management for working capital. Let's say selling the inventory, minimizing in your inventory purchase to generate cash, looking for a working capital KPI. What kind of the KPI they have to look at it? Day payable outstanding, day sale outstanding, the impact of a strategy, assess capital expenditure, and defer non-necessarily spending. Organize their spending. When I say organize or cutting the spending is not compromise their capability or their value. They have to communicate or evaluate the customer and supplier in terms of the purchasing power and credit worthiness. Are they credit worthy to give them extended credit or not? Communicate early with the lender. All of this board of director, mostly in GCC country, focus in this area. The fourth one, which is the most important, that the authority regulatory and also the board, the communication and disclosure, and also this is the heart of the corporate governance, because the shareholders, the potential shareholder, international shareholder, locally or internationally, they become more confident and more trustworthy of the company if they have a proper disclosure and a transparency in this situation, especially in the crisis itself. However, to be honest with you, looking at the corporate governance report in most of the GCC country, when you look, they have to list the risk, right? Most of the company, unfortunately, just write the basic risk, let's say financial risk, loan risk, but never ever talk about the pandemic or diseases. But this is not the first time the world is affected by pandemic. We have Ebola pandemic before. We have a Spanish flu before. But none of them is actually learn from the history and write that. Let's see if the authority regularity focus on these before, afterward, or during the second. So that the company already published their first quarter financial information, but no one up to now focus right about the challenge of the coronavirus. They announce some losses, but they don't write that much about how they dealt with it or what they are future look for how to deal with the coronavirus or expected one. Okay. So the communication is really important, very important, because it's build confidence for investor, regulator, and other stockholder as well. So to ensure, because communication and disclosure ensure the strategic and communication carried out. Because any shareholder right now, so even though in GCC country not that much have awareness about the corporate governance, but to still know the quality. So someone can distinguish between the company that has a quality, frequency, and a transparency disclosure, and other company they just have bullet point and not notice. So you can tell. Even right now, the analysis is, written about the board of director, about the committee, writing about what the report is actually included. So let's say you are interested in corporate governance and Aramco. So you can go to Arqam or Mubashir, which is an electronic newspaper. You can see all the information you would like to have it about a new announcement about the board committee and the risk as well. Okay. In terms of the communication, what's going on in the GCC? I'm just going to give example about in Saudi Arabia. What the company tried to do because of the lockdown, the physical General Assembly meeting has been abandoned in GCC countries, so they have to use electronic proxy, and this is not new in GCC country. In case of Saudi Arabia, they reduced the trading hour, so it used to be from 10 to 3 p.m. From 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. right now is reduced through in the lockdown from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The fifth point is a strategy, and this is where the board of director hoping, this is what they wrote so far, they spend most of their time in the strategy and how they recover from this crisis, the COVID-19. So when I say strategy, they have a play with the scenario. They have a play with the scenario or scenario analysis. They create or asking a question that never asked or not expected in the study situation and also in the current current situation of the pandemic. Even though it's become better than before, but we have a high degree of uncertainty about the business. Again, why we have a high degree of certainty? So every time there is announcement from China or Russia, they expected a new disease. What happened? So the business is worried, shareholders worry. So this is why we have always keep in mind that the company right now become in high degree uncertainty. So the board of director has to act based on the imperfect information, because we have what we have right now. We don't have full information and we have to deal with it. We have to act based on the imperfect information, and we need to cover the implication of this opportunity and risk during the crisis. So even though most of the board of director focus in these 5 areas, which I already mentioned, health and safety, communication, strategies, and also cash and liquidity, we don't forget the help and support of the government. We have good government in GCC countries, so the regulatory authorities support the companies a lot. They give them they interact with each other frequently to see their challenges and help them, and relax a lot of policy to keep up, to make them the business continue with this remain and encourage remain through this crisis, and encourage them to do a lot of strategy, because this is the sole domain of a company and the board of director within the company. So as you know, why the government support in GCC countries support emerging? Because I know, as you know, GCC countries is emerging countries, okay, or emerging economy. So they have the government to try to maintain contribution to ensure the market remain open and in order throughout the process, as a vehicle for financing the business and source for vital liquidity of investor. The government try to emphasize the communication and disclosure. They also encourage them to give them indirect flow of information about their business. And you can see most of the listed company, if you open their website, you can see a page about COVID-19. If you open the exchange of Kuwait, if you open exchange of Dubai, if you open any exchange in GCC country, you can see there is an icon talk about the COVID-19 or how they deal with it, or how they support the listed company during this moment. Okay, they also encourage the company to do a scenario planning. When I say scenario planning, this is an approach in you for risk management. So if you are interested in corporate governance, I really encourage you to read about the scenario planning, to read about risk management, and how to maintain. The board should have to maintain the two things, to match the variability of the revenue with the variability of the cost, and try to bridge the gap between the two. Okay, because revenue is needed and the company has to pay the cost of it. Okay, so these the two priority for it. So in order to do that, to plan a scenario, they have to ask an expected question, and this is understandable. Okay, so again, the communication is a key, how we should engage with this crisis and how to deal and communicate with our shareholder. So kind of an expected question, do we have to deal with the assembled general meeting normally, or we should postpone them, or we have to create a new venue like electrical voting or electronic engagement through cloud? Okay. So as you know, all the GCC country, we are keep up with the technology. So the government really encourage the electronic voting to shareholder to be comfortable with the electronic voting process. Okay, but most of what regulatory authority and shareholder, they are concerned about it is, did the really company look at the best corporate governance, or they throw it out the window because they don't see as they make important decision without relying about a proper practice, a proper practice or a proper rule introduced by the country regarding the corporate governance. Well, my observation, I can see that a good company, they're still looking at the corporate governance because they believe that if they make a decision, they try to build it through adequate information, and this decision has a long-term consequences for the company and for the economy of the country, if it's big like Aramco we have in case of Saudi Arabia. So this decision is really important and depends of the board of director. And the good thing about it in GCC country, the regulatory authority in exchange, they really emphasize the corporate governance. And then they cannot accept any financial report without having published a proper corporate governance. Well, comparing to the Western is not, advanced, but still we are in the right track. And if you can see the data from 2019, you can see a much improvement of the data of how to deal with that one, how transparency and the disclosure is actually better than before. What else? The company is become increasingly flexible with the rule for the listed company right now to keep the business going. It's open to them. Let's say they have to follow religiously the corporate governance rule. They may not follow it right now because of the pandemic in some situation. Let's say independent director. In the case of independent director is not important in the case of the pandemic. Why? Because we need executive and management who deeply understand the business. So this is the case. We can see it separately in terms of the independent, and I can see that the authority may have turn a blind eye or give relaxation for it because of the pandemic crisis. We need somebody who has deeply involved the management, understand it, to keep adequate information to the board of director or executive board member. Also, they may have, again, each company had their controller control code beside the corporate governance code. They may rewrite it again that proper to their business, to the culture, to the value, structure it properly and rewrite it again after the crisis. This can be also recommended from the government as well. Well, The other thing I would like to touch to it, what we have experienced, as I said, that this is not the first time we experience the crisis, but if we can see what we have the financial crisis, it was a financial, it's actually caused by the financial market, but this is a healthy crisis. But the government to try to give the companies direction, to help them to have a good thing obligation for the shareholder, employee, also client, and the society beside that. So if we compare the 2 years, which is a 12-year gap between the financial crisis and the pandemic right now, we can see there is much more improvement, or they are rather well than the crisis itself, how to deal with it. Well, we are affected. In GCC country, the oil price is affected as well. It's lower. The company, a lot of them announces losses. However, we are better off than the financial crisis in 2007 and 8. Okay, so if we look at it, so what we have here, one of the things that the government to try for the listing company is reducing the trading hour, because they believe it can be sufficient and provide enough robustness and manpower as well. During the time as ensuring adequate control, they always encourage the company to have adequate in control in place and take advantage of the opportunity they have to enforce and react to these crises rapidly. Well, and again, one of the most important within the corporate governance is the committees, and we always emphasize about the audit committees. If we cannot take all the committees separately right now in this crisis, because it's difficult. Different industry have different rule, have different value, different losses, and impacted by the crisis. So it is very difficult to draw a general rule for all committees. But let's say audit committees. What is the rule of audit committees? To oversee the financial reports. So the only thing that the authority regularity is actually emphasize that they have a regular meeting. They increase the regular meeting, focusing on the most important financial factor that help to improve it, or how to deal with it during the crisis of it. Okay, they have to have a frequent meeting. Even if they have not a proper information, as you know, we know what we have. We know right now we don't have that much information, but we have to build out of it. If it's necessarily, the company may create a special committee for the crisis, but for some company is not important. Okay. So if we ask if this is pandemic gonna be continue or not, well, the general feeling, is people still pessimistic, have some negativity, but we have to look at it at a positive side. A lot of opportunity. The company try to be creative. It try to see a new venue of technology to continue with the business and increase their revenue, and have a scenario to play with it. Okay, and again, we say that scenario planning is really important, very important, and for a crisis management team, and to work in the parameter things. Okay, so that's what we have right now, and you can see through the pandemic, as you know, as GCC country is open for national or domestic and international investor. Within the pandemic, you can see that outflow. Excuse me, just to drink some water. So certainly during the pandemic, there outflow of the international investment. However, this is not significant. So it's not that, wow, was the market is not gonna work anymore, because that is not significant. Because again, GCC country is the least infected compared to the US or Britain or UK, or let's say German. Okay, because we have a lot of support of the government as an emerging economy. And also most of the international investor engage in our market as a passive investor. What does it mean by passive investor? Passive investor, they just look at the index. Is the index working properly? I'm not losing that much. That's it. They feel happy about it. This is why we don't see that much of outflow of the international investors. So what I would like finally to say, that listed company and the government really emphasize in the governance and the disclosure, because it's really important to ensure the continuity and the contribution for the economy, as they represent the interests of many people and not just a small group of the investor. So we have to ask, do we think we learned lesson from what happened so far? I believe yes, we do. But they have to be more patient. We have to have the government have to have more flexible and high emphasize in interaction and different of shareholder and the economy of the outside and themselves as well. So we learn something, definitely, the company, the government, the shareholder as well. And we hoping this is going smoothly, the risk for 2020. We don't know how long it's going to take. So finally, I would like to give some recommendation to the board and the top management. What is the recommendation we can offer? And again, for the board, it has to be accessible. So the board has to be accessible for the top management. Top management has to be accessible for the employee. The top management should encourage knowledge and ability to respond to the problem in the novel way. The top management should encourage also the employee to challenge and develop themselves for a coming problem. As again, they announce probably more dangerous crisis going to come up and more deathly one, okay? The top management also should learn every day to solve the problem and moving forward. The board should encourage the top management to act to ensure the organization is ahead of the challenge, and the board of the management should the board should help the top management monitoring the workload of the team and help them to address the stress as well. The board should encourage the top management for a good leadership practice, and the board should also encourage to have critical information, gather as much critical information, because again, the board of directors, why I say that board has to encourage board of the top management, because we don't have to mix. The board of director is not the running daily the business. They just strategical level worker, while the top management is what they running the business daily. So we don't have to mix. Even in the crisis, the board not their work supposedly in the strategic level, not engaging in the daily business, but they have to have respond in timely. They have to have adequate information from the top management to deal with it critically, but they don't have to deal. This is why the board should encourage to have a critical information to deal with it for in different form, in different location, to respond effectively to it. Also, the board should encourage the top management to be creative, bright, adopt a new norm through new idea and knowledge to overcome the problem. Again, I give an example of two cases of such a company in GCC country. They just threw CEOs for less than 6 months probably, and then not approving the member of the audit committees because they are not qualified. So the top management, they have to review the skills what's the important about this top management? Have to be skills, qualified, commitment, accountable for it, and they have to collaborate with each other. This is why the board, we have to go through all of this for the top management who run the business day to day for the success and return for investor in the long term. That's it for me today. Thank you very much. And we have come to end of my time. And thank you for attending. If you have any question, please, you can ask. I have a clear idea. I hope you understand what I share with you, what I absorb, how the COVID-19 affects the companies. What is the board actually focus on? What is the government support? And what is the expected from the board of the director? What is the recommendation? What is the recommendation for the board and the top management? So I'm welcoming attendee for any question.
Thank you, Dr. Zahra, for your presentation. It's useful and informative as well. Please, any of the audience have any question before going to the Q&A, just raise your hand and we'll go one by one for asking the question to Dr. Zahra. Starting with Majid Al-Kawsi. Your mic is mute. Please unmute your mic so you can ask.
Yeah.
Yep.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmah.
This is Majid Al-Gawsi, the Secretary General of Yakba Yemen Association of Certified Public Accountant. Thank you, Dr. Zahra, for your presentation. It is really helpful. I will add something besides what you have said, that in my opinion of the view, I think that the wealth funds of the Gulf Cooperation Council country should change to the direction of the from the foreign investment in order to revere the local markets. Do you agree with me? This is.
Say it again. Sorry, I don't get the question. Would you mind if you repeat the question?
No. This is not the question. Yani, this is adding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tfaddal, always.
Yeah. Beside what you said, I think that the wealth funds of the Gulf corporations,
yes,
should be changed their directions or strategy from investing outside the Gulf countries to investing in the local, in order to decrease the inflation that it might be because of the lower cost of the oil and something like that.
Well, I can have 2 points of view. I can agree and disagree with you, because based on the information, they just know what they know. So they build of it. I'm surely by the end of 2020, a lot of things gonna be changed because they're gonna have to absorb. And what is the point is correct. Your point is correct. What you absorb is correct. But what they build so far is what the information have. I'm sure by 2020, a lot of things gonna be changed. Let's wait and see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Majid. We have another Majid. I don't know if this is the same or different. Yes. Hello.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Zakaria Burjal, Yemeni certified. I want to I have a question with the two sides. I will try to be shortly. One side, I am focusing on the committees, especially. I think we need to focus, or could we focus on risk committee, because this committee is specialized in dealing with such situation more than audit committee and other committees. This is the first side. The second side, what about the companies or origination only have owner? There is no chairman and member of other holders, only founders. What about them? We didn't mention them in this, and in my country, Yemen, almost of the companies in this kind. This is the second. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I got it. Let's see about the risk committees. So, well, in GCC country, it's not required to have a risk committee. Audit committee doing the risk committee work. However, I totally agree. It has to be a crisis management team. It has to be, we have a risk committee team at least to build in. It must, because we have to deal. Because if you look at the record of the corporate governance in GCC country, most of the company, they just, write about financial risk, loan risk, nothing about the crisis would happen. And probably if we have a specialized committee, probably we may have more emphasize, we may have more specific scenario planning, or more written about the risk that if you futuristic, okay, about it. So I really try look at it. Regarding the second question, as I emphasized in the beginning of the presentation, I'm talking about listed company. A listed company is not one person owner. So it has to be, at least in case of Saudi Arabia, 30% is publicly, it's actually distributed for the public people, okay? So when you say that family businesses, let's say that family is on a business, most of them family businesses fail in the second or third generation, because they just focus after they fail or the death of the first founder who interested in the business, the second or third generation is not interested and really affected by kind of these crises. So the thing about it, about the family business, they have to look outside their family member. They have to look for a qualified person who has accountability skills, committed, also knowledge about the business to run the business for the member. It's not supposedly because you are family member has to be running the business. No. This is why most, and as you said, most of the company who is that family, purely family, without a professional running members, they, through these crises, actually not temporarily closed, but permanently closed. Okay.
Thank you.
I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. It is a perfect answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Majid. Haytham.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
First, I want to thank you for this useful webinar. I'm Haytham Mudesh from BH Auditing. I'm a partner. My question is, what's your recommendations for audit companies, audit firms, especially in this pandemic? Most of the customers and clients asked us to reduce our fees. So what's your recommendation about this?
You are a good one. I'm asking you first the question, do you have a risk committee in your audit firm?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so you do as well. So what is the management? So again, because the companies, again, the government is actually encourage all the company to reduce their fee, especially for, I think you deal with the listed or unlisted companies. So the small, medium, or large company? Large or medium?
Unlisted companies, and small and large companies.
So you have both. So you have both. So small and large. So basically, at certain, if you're gonna keep the business going, and they said if you don't have that much if you have much competition in the area, so you may actually consider reducing the fee for a while for them to keep them as a loyal client. But if you see not that much competitiveness, or not, they cannot do outsourcing. So you can keep your price. So it's difficult actually to say, because depending on the business itself, depending on your actually costs and expenses you are running so far. But this is what I can tell through through the Vital, or if we have with comparing to other businesses you have.
Thanks, Dr. Zahra, and we hope more webinars A lot of legal accountants from Yemen are saying welcome to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Haytham. Zertaj. Zertaj, your mic is mute. Zertaj, your mic. Okay now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, Dr. Zahra and Dr. Ahmad, for a lovely, for an excellent presentation, and thank you for all these webinars. I want to ask a question about why didn't they mention about the challenge of coronavirus, about the challenges of COVID-19?
Oh, sorry, is interchangeably. I had to mention that. So sorry. Is actually coronavirus is COVID-19. Both of them is still. I'm using them interchangeably. So in GCC country, more likely you're gonna see coronavirus. But if you go internationally outside the GCC, you can say COVID-19. So still the same. So coronavirus is the COVID-19. Still the same.
So why didn't they mention in Q reports about the challenge faced by COVID-19?
The challenge, we already mentioned that. We changed that the health and safety, the cash and liquidity, communications, strategies, all these is the challenges coming around. And this is what the board focus on to deal with it as a challenge. Okay, this is what we mentioned. These the 5 challenges met, and what's the board try to focus on lately and most of the board in GCC countries.
So they mentioned the report that challenges clearly, not specifically. Means how it is.
This is what this is just, you know, an let's say an umbrella. What's the more likely? And again, if you like to be much specific and to be different industry has different challenge, right? And different opportunity. But this is just to give, you know, roughly what's the challenge happen in the all industry within the GCC and what is the board deal with it, and to be like not that much specific. You can see health and safety, you can see communication, you can see strategy. All of them, it's actually met the requirement for all industries. Okay.
And I would like to congratulate you and Dr. Ahmad for your new book. And
thank you.
And I'm following you and Dr. Ahmad, and I would like to participate in your next projects if possible.
Thank you so much. It's actually the book of Dr. Ahmed. I'm just participating in 1 chapter. Congratulations to Dr. Ahmed.
Yes,
thank you so
will you
much.
invite me?
Inshallah, I will invite you as Zerdaj, and also in the end of this presentation, I will announce a workshop and also an international conference, and you can register in both of them, inshallah, at the end of this seminar.
Yes, I want to be participant in research projects in future research.
Sure.
And I am working here at Jazan University since years, and thank you very much, Dr. Zahra, Dr. Ahmad.
Thank you for being that passionate. You're gonna be successful because you really want to work. Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, Majid.
Sorry for bothering you, Dr. Zahra.
No, تفضل بالعكس. You add to the talk. You add to it.
Actually, I have received a lot of message from Yemeni CBA that they need the material. Yani if you could send it to us so we can translate it and send it to them, this is will be appreciated.
Definitely. I'm gonna have my note to Dr. Ahmed and send it to you, okay? Because he's running the sessions.
Really, also, you said during your presentation the planning by scenarios. Really, it is very critical point in this situation. Yeah, and we really appreciate if you could send us some links or some examples so that we can recap it or we can implement it in our manufacturing or our sections.
Definitely. I really encourage everyone who attends this session, read about scenario planning, read about risk management parameters right now. This is really important skills you need to build with any discipline you have, because it's always right now looking for the risk management, how to deal with it, how to solve it, critically thinking out of the box, and you can deal with it without the scenario planning. Surely, Majid, I'm going to share this with Dr. Ahmed sooner, inshallah, and he can share it with you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Majid. Let's go, Dr. Zahra, to Q&A. There we have a couple of questions. Maybe if they ask the same question, you can skip it. You can go down.
Don't read. Yeah. Can I see the question? Can I see the question?
Yes. Just the same thing. Just go to Q&A.
Okay. So they have 4 questions here. Let's say the first one. Would you expect the gap around the impact of lower? Okay, so the first question is about the gap around the impact of lowering the oil. But the good thing that lowering the oil, again, you know that if we lower the oil, what happened to the dollars goes up, and also the price of the gold is going up, and also the tourism is actually affected. Well, but the government tried to accelerate this one and try to deal with them strategically. It takes some time, and we cannot ignore that. Is we affected by coronavirus or COVID-19? I'm using them interchangeably, but it needs time to deal with it in terms of the company level, which is who accelerate our economy, and also by the government who regulate the company or also the economy for us. The third great idea could send you some of the scenario planning. Yeah, we will. What is the way to deal with the pandemics? We already answered this one.
It's 18 hours.
Yeah, this is unfortunately that even me, I was surprising. As I told you before, I'm updating my data, and I looked at the corporate governance report and also the financial report, which is supposedly bigger and cover everything. None of them is actually talk about pandemic or disease it may happen. Just regularly try to fit anything and close the report. But this is a call for authority or authority regulatory to look and enforce this one, to look deeply at the risk. This is still the shareholder, how transparent, how thoughtful is the company to look at that one. Because any company try to encourage more investors to come, to give them a return, and also not nationally, but also internationally. So I hope it's going to be a requirement that to look deeply in the listing diseases or pandemic part of the list of risk. I think I answer all the questions.
Okay, we have a question with Badr.
تفضل.
Badr, your mic is mute. Badr al-Haddad, your mic is mute. Please unmute. Yes, now we can hear you. Yes, Badr. Maybe you have a problem in your mic. If you have a question, please write it in Q&A, please.
Yes, he can write it.
Okay, Dr. Zahra, I have two, actually. In your opinion, how board of director can survive during or after this pandemic? Here in Kuwait, for example, we have many listed companies lose more than 70% from the total assets. So in your out of view, how they can act to survive?
Well, in their case, I'm believing that you have a rule. If the company lose 70% of their asset, they're gonna be suspended from trading. So the first, what happened to deal with this problem? So either they have to increase their asset by increasing the equity, or cut their asset by selling some of their selling their inventory and increase the asset, and it's take time. Most of likely we have this case in Saudi Arabia with the Bisha company, and some of them is actually declare they're bankrupt after a while. So it's depend on that, and most of the likely, if the company lose 70%, is a problem of the top management and poor board of director running the company.
Here,
so either they have, yeah.
In Kuwait, for example, I
Yeah.
don't know Saudi Arabia or other GCC countries, Kuwaiti government help all the listed companies and give them money and give them
bailout, right? They give them bailout.
Exactly, so they can.
But this is 70. But it's supposedly, I'm not sure, but supposedly in GCC, this is not 50%, is not 20%, is 70% of the assets supposedly suspend their trading in the market. Help them by that. If they are worth, let's see, they have to go through the board of director. If they are actually do their work properly, go to the top management. If there is no manipulation or nothing happen, no fraud happen, and then see if they are worth to build or give them a bailout. Otherwise, they have to declare, because 70% is a lot. We have this case with the Al-Mu'jal company, and they in the end they declare their bankruptcy.
Thank you. And also, it will be a great idea, Dr. Zahra, if you can send me, please, a list of references that you used. Also, the one that the scenario one, because I have many of the audience ask about this reference as well. So that it will help a lot, many audience to know more about the pandemic and how it affect corporate governance and companies.
Definitely.
Here we have an Q&A. Thank you. We have a question with Ammar Hafiz. Dr. Zahra, I am Ammar Hafiz from India. I want to know when things resume after the pandemic. Would the compliance of corporate governance reforms by the big listed companies be the same, or will it increase or decrease?
Well, I'm surely. So right now, what is the regulatory authority is actually trying to do reform, or reforming the corporate governance basically is actually become more critical, even though there we have a relaxation in some of the policy and the submission of some of the requirement for exchange. But it's going to be, let's say, most of the GCC, some of the GCC country have compulsory, and some of them is voluntarily. So I'm thinking that after we have looked at absorbing that, it's become more critical right now for company to be listed in the listed company, because again, the public or minority shareholder has to be in to invest their saving, and they are looking for return. So the compliance, it's become enforced hardly from the authority, and it's gonna be become a compulsory. So even in the compulsory corporate governance in the GCC, some of the rule and policy is actually voluntarily to follow. So after we're seeing a lot of the reveal some of the bad follow of the corporate governance and model of corporate governance in these listed company, surely, because we need to encourage keep the confidence of the shareholder nationally and internationally, and also we keep the economy, because this is part of the economy. It has to be, the reform has to be deep, enforced, and strong, and this is what I believe.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zahra. You are welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this session. Thanking you and for attendees as well. Thank you for having me, Dr. Ahmed, and hopefully we have more later on, inshallah.
There is
Dr. Zahra,
last
تفضل.
question. Yes.
just one more question. I really appreciate it.
تفضل. No, تفضل.
What if there is another paramedic coming in September? What is the situation?
They actually expect it. They
Yes.
actually expect it. So what will happen? What they expected, and again, what we see so right now, all the government right now helping the companies, especially the small, medium, and listed company, because this is part of the economy. But they give them a timing. If you not learn from the first pandemic, so the government already have their burden. So if you not deal with it, you're gonna be kicked out of a market, and not that no one gonna trust the company if you're gonna reopen again. Okay, so this is actually because a lot of announcements right now, there is much more diseases. There is another disease is going to be come from China, somewhere from Kazakhstan, I don't know where. So the company give a hint, we are helping here, but if you don't learn, if you not push yourself, if you're not innovative, if you're not having a strategy or scenario planning, you're going to be kicked out of the market, and you're going to have been corrupted.
Yeah, I think
And no
in my
help.
opinion,
Yeah,
I think Arab country and Gulf should have a committee like China and Russia. They are having a committee for the second paramedic. So this committee is supporting the government. So this is the responsibility of the government, especially for the service sectors, like restaurants, like something. If there is another paramedic, they will die. Really, they don't have cash flow. They don't have a lot of things.
Definitely. But they look, Majid, they gonna help what the small and medium because they cannot deal with it. But if you have the listed company with the millions of millions, and I already helped you in the first pandemic, and you haven't learned, I couldn't see any changes, any innovation, no new product, no online technology, you have to be kicked out from the but definitely the government is dealing, we're still in the emerging economy, they're helping the small and the businesses. Well, I'm sure the government's gonna help, but there is probably a few cases, maybe the company, some of them gonna go out of the business, and we cannot ignore that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Majid, you are really good.
Thank you, Majid. Last question, Dr. Zahra. We have a question from Dr. Jinan Mohammed from Oman. She asked about what is how you will go forward by your research, this research. So what's your what is your recommendation?
We already
research?
we have a paper with Dr. Ahmed so far. Right now we are working on it. And I'm updating my data right now. I'm looking to see if I can engage or write, because you cannot write a research paper about COVID-19 or about coronavirus without having appropriate data, and we haven't finished with it. So you cannot build on it, but we can write about observation or quarterly, because we already go through first quarter. We're looking for the second and third and fourth quarter, and we will see. We'll see. Yeah, a lot of things, proper news written about the coronavirus and corporate governance, but nothing is actually supported with the data.
Thank you, Dr. Zahra. We have also a question, but I think it's in French. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Habani, I can't read French. So if you can write in English or in Arabic, I can help you, or maybe you can send me your question by email, and I am happy to forward it to Dr. Zahra to answer your question. This is the end of today's session. I want to thank Dr. Zahra Nassar for accepting my invitation and give us this wonderful seminar that's really useful and informative, that I think everyone like it. Thank you so much, and thank you all of everybody to for attending this webinar. I want to announce next week we will not have a webinar. Next week we'll have a workshop. This workshop, actually, there's a story for this workshop. I think everyone know about the AAA, American Accounting Association. It's in America. I attend one of their workshop, and it cost me more than $4,000. So same idea for free, and it's an international workshop sponsored by Youth News Network. It's a government, Kuwaiti government that control this network. So next week in 20 of August, we'll open the workshop in technology in teaching by Dr. Muthammina in Indonesia, Mr. Muhammad Galal from Qatar, Dr. Sharif Ismail in Egypt. They will talk about the technology. So I think most of the audience here are doctors or a PhD student, master. Let's say 80% of you teach or have seminars or workshops. So how we can deal with the technology, how we can use this technology nowadays during the COVID-19, what is the new ideas? I know this is a Zoom and other program or software that we use to contact or meet each other, but there is others programs. We have a VR, we have IR, we have MR, we have many technology. It's come up and we need to know about it. So it's a good opportunity, and I encourage all of you to attend this conference. It's really because it's not just because I organize it. It's not about I advertise this workshop. It's a free, guys. It's a free, and it's really I pay like a lot in America, and it's good. I think this is a positive side of coronavirus, that is to bring workshops, seminars, webinars, conferences for free for all over the world without paying any penny or any money for it. Also,
thank you so much.
I will announce another the conference. This conference also organized by me. It's international conference in contemporary issues in accounting, CIA 2020. Also, I invite Dr. Zahra if you want to send a paper. So right now we are calling of papers. This conference will organized by me, as I said, and supervised by Youth Public Authority, which is a government, and Kuwait Accountants and Auditors Association. Scientific committees will be Prof. Aziz Jafar from UK, Prof. Anis Jarboui from Tunisia, and me from Kuwait, and Professor Mustafa Kamal from Qatar. The conference topics: corporate governance, CSR, banking, IT, big data, corporate narrative reporting, taxation, auditing, market reaction, risk earning management, performance, and IFRS. We already start collecting the papers, and the end of this submission will be 12th of September. And the notification to participant about if this paper accepting or reject to this conference, it will be in 19 of September. How you can join? There is two types. The one that will participate or want to present to this international conference can send me an email, and I will put my email and all the links that you can contact me. So your papers should send it to my email. Also, if you want just be an audience, there is a link for registration, but this it will be in September. That's all. I will put all the
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, and for attendees. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you, Dr. Zahra. These all the links, so you can contact me, guys, and also I will put my email, so you can send me your paper. For both workshop and the conference, anyone will attend, they will receive a certificate, the certificate, and also anyone will accepted his paper or her paper in this international conference, he or she will get a membership in Kuwaiti, the Kuwaiti Accounting Association for 1 year for free. Also, we will have keynote speakers, and I will announce it soon. That's all. Thank you so much, guys. And if you have any question, please just send me an email or contact me in any of these links. Thank you so much. I will stay a bit. If you have any question, please let me know. Thank you so much, and see you next week at the international workshop about teaching in technology. See ya. Goodbye.